Okay, we are live now. A couple seconds early, a few seconds early. I
Right.
thought we had the clock here. We're actually going to, in this live stream, try to keep our time to no more than 45 minutes. So I'm setting a timer while we're waiting for people to come on.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, so all right. I'm not seeing anyone yet, so why don't we just start, because I know that people will come on in just a little bit. Oh, here come a couple of people. So why don't I do the official welcome everyone to Conversations with Projectors. And if you are a projector, welcome, welcome, welcome to the conversation. And if you are someone who loves a projector and you're just really curious or just want to be part of the party, welcome. so, so today we are here with me, Sandy Freshy, Christy Christopher, and Doc Yamini. We are here to open the conversations we've been having among ourselves with all of you. So we welcome you to chat in the comments, and hello from the Netherlands, Ellen. Welcome, welcome. Yeah. So feel free to chat. Our topic today actually came from one of our conversations that we've been having back and forth about how do you protect your energy in the midst of being around other people, and without getting pulled out of your rhythm, or without, and how do you remain open to a certain extent without being a bitch. So that's, and we think that this is just a timely conversation for this period that we're moving into between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we would love to hear from you, what your questions are, what your concerns are with the holidays coming. This kind of got sparked off because I had mentioned offhand that my 4 Motors manifesting generator stepson is coming to spend a couple of weeks with us. And then his sister, who is a manifesting generator as well, is coming with a friend and a dog, not for a couple of weeks, but somewhere in there. And that kind of sparked Christy. And Christy, you've been working with that on different levels. Like, you've been kind of driving this conversation. So do you want to kind of share your experience and what's come up for you? Because it started off with this, how do I manage my energy? And then it got a little bit deeper. So
Right.
yeah.
I think especially you have company coming in town, and for me, live in the house with 2 teenagers and animals and a husband, and it's so often I think for me it's like as soon as somebody else comes in the room, it's like I'm out of my energy and thinking like, oh, what do they need? What's going on? What do I need to be present for? And during 2020, as we've all been quarantining more, that definitely increased. It became more of a like, okay, how do you manage your energy when everyone's home all the time and all of this is going on? And it's an ongoing process, obviously, because for me, I've mentioned, but it's I think the revelation that I'm having about it is how many layers of conditioning I have on it. That it's not just it's not just like my family of origin, but it's how we've been trained to do business and entrepreneurship and all of these things. And like one of the things that we were talking about that I really had an epiphany about last week was just realizing that I've been trained as an entrepreneur and a coach, that when I show up in group meetings or doing any kind of networking, that I need to show up basically like listening, holding space, waiting for the opportunity to be a projector and see the other person. And so it's like I go into these situations. And what happened recently was that it was just I was going to a celebration of life for my grandmother's recent passing, and I just observed, even in the light of just going to have this meal to be with my family, and really for my own closure, my own honoring of her life for, and what that has meant to me. But I watched my mind just get all wound up. And it was like suddenly mentally I'm sitting at the table with my family going, well, what is this cousin? Maybe what does she need me to see for her? And how do I need to hold this person? And who, and it was like, holy crap. Like I've been so conditioned to be in any group that I think I need to be seeing the other ready to project at any moment. And all of these things that I'm going to a celebration of life, like not even thinking about what really matters to me. And it was like, this is intense to really think about how we do this so easily.
Yeah. I caught myself as you were saying that. I just realized I was catching myself driving back from the walk I did this afternoon, thinking about my stepson and wondering if I need to contact him to find out if he's going to where he's going to work out when he's here, because he's a big weightlifter and all of that. And, and what diet does he have now? And then I thought, you know what? This young man is 24 years old. I think he can figure this out, and he has not asked me to facilitate anything for him. So Christy, what a great what a great thing to kind of to light up for us to see, that this whole thing of being out there for the other. And one of the terms you use that I know that Doc, you resonated with it, and I resonated with it a lot too. Othering, othering the other, mothering the other, all of that.
Always othering.
Yeah.
Othering. Yes.
Othering. Yeah. So I want to also welcome Mike to the conversation. Mike says, my best persuasion technique is silence. So.
Right? Yeah, Mike.
Yeah. And Doc, you said you had something to say about that a while ago in some of our conversations about just being aware of, and I'm severely paraphrasing here, how often you have, maybe in the past, or even maybe you catch yourself wanting to say something when nobody even asked. And do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm still working with it. I mean, Mike's suggestion is the best. Just zip it till somebody comes up and asks me for whatever. And it works every time, because then they're open to what I have to share. And there's not all this resistance I have to go through, which is very fatiguing for me. I feel like I'm trying to convince somebody of something, or that I'm pushing it up against, I'm putting out energy and it's bouncing back at me. And I'm having to deal with that dissonance frequency. And that doesn't happen when somebody says, well, what do you think about that? Or something similar, right? So it's helped me a lot when I can remember to keep it shut.
Yeah, and I think it's even more challenging when we're with a group of people. Like to speak to your experience, Christy, of being in a room full of family and friends and all of that, all of those types of people, and being in a place where, there are emotions moving. And I know you're emotionally defined. In a situation like that, with me being undefined, a lot of times I'm just kind of riding with people's waves. But you really spoke to that that thing of, what do I need to do? How do I need to, and you have the channel of community, the 3740. So, I wonder how much that plays into it as well.
Yeah.
Now, Ellen says, I'm a mental projector with 2 generator sons and a manifesting generator son and a generator husband. God bless you, Ellen. So, this is a permanent issue for me.
Yes. Wow.
But having my husband at home full time since March, it's been even more challenging.
Oh my God.
Only
really
had the house to myself a handful of days since then. So a real helpful conversation for me. Ellen, I'd love to know, I'm sure Christy and Doc would too, how you're managing yourself, how you're managing your energy with that. And just today, I've been thinking about this ever since my husband left to go back to work. And for those of you who don't know, he's a tugboat engineer. So he's away for a month and he's home for a month. And actually this week is crew change. We're not quite sure which day. So he'll be home. And I was talking to him today, texting him today, and I said, I think a lot of the stress that we're feeling, because we've had some stress and tension with living together, even though he's away half the time, communication issues. I said, I think some of it is because you really need to come home. We need to find a way for you to get home. I don't know why I was saying that. He's a generator, very open generator, but we need to find a way for you to be home so that we have a different rhythm in our environment, so that you're not trying to cram everything in, all of your doing into a month. Yeah. And then, when you go, I have to do my best not to mess up anything you've done, or at least to kind of keep it creeping along until you get back, and in that respect, if he were home, I could take a break, and go away, or, be in and out in pure 3-5 fashion. Yeah. And Mike says, the game I enjoy playing is to see if anyone is going to recognize me or not. Just breathing and being. Love it.
That's
Love
a great game. I'm stealing that one, Mike. Yeah, man.
That's a good one.
And I think that's so timely for what we're, the whole inevitability for a lot of people with COVID on top of it, with all the lockdown and stuff on top of it that we've had this year, as Ellen pointed out. It's this time of year, maybe not so much because some people are locked down, but this time of year, typically we are among a lot of people that and energies, their auras that we're not normally around. And it can truly be disruptive. Truly be. Yeah. So I'd love to know what you guys, Christy, Doc.
Yeah, let me hop in there with a couple of, I like basics, even though I'm a 4-6 guy. Basics. So 2 tools that work for me for everything is, what's the smallest doable increment I can pull off? Because when I add the stress of a lot of other people, if I make something too complex, I can't integrate it. I can't make the tool work. So what's the smallest thing you can implement that would be helpful, I guess, is the question. The way I know that is how I find the smallest doable increment is I ask the question, well, could you do it for 30 seconds? Or could you do it like this, just a very small amount of activity? And if my brain goes, is that all? Well, I could do 10 times that. I have SDI. If I'm having to go, well, maybe if I change some things or I do this or that, that's resistance and it'll never happen. So then I pair that with the only 3 things that can happen ever is you gain energy, you lose energy, or you stay even. That's it. So that gives me a gauge to know then how my other small increment is doing. If it's beginning to change things, I get more plus numbers than losing energy numbers. So I think there's a ton of techniques, and I'd like to hear from everybody how they manage this. But those help me to determine if what I'm doing is really, really, really doing it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's such a logical way of looking at it. Like you've broken it down to like the it's this and that. Look at this, look at that. It either gives you energy, it takes it away, or it stays the same. And what's the smallest doable increment? I can't tell you how many times I've been running my business by that the last few months, and it's really good. Now, Ellen says, I really have to keep. Oh,
Sorry. I don't know what happened.
charge.
Good Lord. Sorry, guys.
I'm gonna mute Doc. Okay. I just figured out I could mute you.
Oh, thank you for muting me. Yes.
After it rang the whole time. So Ellen says, I really have to keep busy, and she puts that in quotes, with my own projects, because I tend to wait to fill in my time after it's clear what everyone else is doing. And I've hogged a room so I can retreat. Good for you. Awesome. I do sleep alone and have done for a year now. Since then, have had much less migraines. That's incredible. I love that. I love how you're really taking care of your space and your energy, and that really speaks to boundaries, like the particular boundaries that projectors have to have. And we started this conversation, I think, Christy, with that your own realization about our three-way conversation. You guys that are just hopping in now, this conversation has been going on for a couple of weeks, so we're so glad you could join us. But we started this conversation, Christy, about this topic with you realizing that the typical time management things that we're taught a lot of times about, okay, you can just push through it now and you can rest tomorrow. It's kind of a myth for us as projectors.
Yes.
Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yes. Noticed that in big and small ways just in the last few months. And what I've noticed for myself is that I can push through, like I can do that. I have a will center, so I'll definitely can push through. But the repercussions for that are way more than resting more tomorrow, or even, I had a week early on in the year where I pushed through like a whole week of doing entirely too much, and then I had a migraine for like a week and a half, and then I really didn't feel recuperated for about 3 weeks from that. And what happened when I watched that go down was I lost all the momentum that I did have towards what I was doing. I lost my rhythm with my business that I had gotten a new rhythm from everything slowing down at the beginning of 2020. And then that went out the door. And then I was just, crashed. And, even though I was, doing all the basic things, I couldn't get back in that resonance where I just felt like everything was sort of in that effortless way.
Yeah. I've experienced that as well. Not being able to, like, losing the whole rhythm of whatever it is, whether it's the orchard or my business or whatever. And it usually happens when there are extra people in the house. And one thing that I've learned not to push. Like, I've learned that and this was really illuminated for me by a projector that I know, that I was trying to get a meeting with, and she said something like, I only do one thing a day, one meeting a day. and it was like, yeah, that's confirmation. So, I've really been looking at that in terms of like the smallest doable increment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to push everything through all at once. And half the time when I'm trying to do that, I'm in the confusion part of my 6447 channel. And it's, nothing's going to happen from up here in the confusion. And all I need to do is just establish that one, maybe two, sometimes things that I'm going to focus my energy around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are those priorities?
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm not moving here and moving there and moving everywhere. And one of the things I think I said in our three-way back and forth that I realized is that and I don't know, those of you who have a defined head and ajna, or if you're undefined, you can jump in here with how you experience your energy. But when I'm trying to assimilate a lot of energy at once, and there are a ton of things that I think I have to do, and I'm rushing around the house, it's as though I've caught myself a couple of times the last couple of weeks. It's as though my head center is spewing out all of this pressure. and the energy, if you could see it, it's probably like moving this way and moving that way, moving the other way, and then by 10 o'clock in the morning, I look up and I'm like, I'm exhausted. And it's because all of my energy is like somewhere else. and my mind is just throwing it out. So, so I don't know. Does anyone else have that experience, or have you had something similar to that go on, or an awareness about it? Yeah.
I have the open root, and I have a constant pressure. I've become aware that there's a constant pressure for me to hurry up and get it done.
Same.
It can be now, and I have an appointment in 2 hours, and I feel a pressure to hurry up and get. Oh, I've got to do this, and I've got to do, and and this thing's hours away.
Yep.
So my first step out of that was an awareness that I was doing it. That was the first thing. Looking at my design really helped as well, because it confirmed for me that that's not me. And one of the finest things Christy says is, "What if you can't see it, you are it."
Yeah. You can't see it, you are it.
Yeah. So, I was totally this adrenaline rush guy, not defined in the sacral either. So, not knowing when enough's enough.
Yep.
So
if you can observe it, then you're not doing it.
Exactly. And that was my first step out. And then I was able to do the smallest doable increment. So, for example, having a ton of things I think I've got to do, if it's on a calendar somewhere, then when my brain starts spinning from the energy, I can feel it moving up through my body and the tension of my body and a busyness in my brain. I look at the calendar and go, it's 2 days away.
I love it.
What are you doing? Stop it.
Wow.
And
Wow.
That's really helped a lot. That thing there has helped.
Yeah, and with your undefined, well, I have a defined root, so there's always pressure there as well. But it's, as you pointed out to me, Doc, when you helped me to understand the rhythm of my head and ajna versus the rhythm, or the rhythm of my mind versus the rhythm of my body. It's a whole different thing. The rhythm of my root, when my mind isn't spewing all my energy out into the atmosphere, is very, very steady. But undefined, I can imagine you're reacting to whatever pressure you've taken in the past, and and how you've internalized that and made that your own pressure now, and it's like without that steady rhythm, or that steady root rhythm that can, when you have a defined root.
I think the thing about the experiment is it's not fast. You know, you get a little glimpse of the Maya, right? And you go, oh, and then you start peeking through it, and then it just keeps unfolding that way. For me, it's very fun to do in that regard, because I always I end up feeling better living closer to who I am, and that I see a lot of people trust it. Trust is a big issue. To be able to encompass one's own rhythm, you have to trust yourself, and I see that's a tricky place sometimes, to find the trust within oneself of the unseen, even if that unseen is me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
there's
think like to the point of like, maybe this will speak to Ellen a little bit with what she's having to navigate, but it's the trusting, I think, as a projector, that you're doing enough, that the right opportunities are coming, that you'll be seen. And like, what I use this term for myself is like selective projecting, right? It's like, I don't have to project all day long for there to be enough, right? To trust that I've done enough to create whatever I'm trying to create. Instead, it's more potent for me to hang back and think about, like, what is actually being invited out of me, or what would be the most potent place to put my energy today, because I'm going to treat it as sacred, because I know I don't have as much energy as everyone else. So let me make sure that I select something to use that energy on, that is going to, actually land, with somebody where it makes a difference, or it's going to move the needle forward on what matters most to me. And to recognize that I only have enough, a certain amount of projecting I can do today before I'm kind of tapped out. So let me select wisely, even if that is my children, you know what I mean? Even if it's my own children, because it's like, I think we feel like we just need to be sitting around going, well, let me listen to you. What do you need?
Yeah.
I want to speak to that real quick. The something that was so stunning to me was understanding the power of our recognition. I call it the projector superpower, because we want to be recognized. But what I've noticed is when I recognize others, something happens for them. So what I began to do is, I don't know, Mike could probably make a cool game out of this one. But what I started to do was notice that an easier way for me to be a projector was just to be with somebody. I didn't really have to do anything but be me. And my projectorness is so incredibly powerful. Our auras do the talking, and most people are never listened to, you know. So just being quiet and sitting there. That's it. Not feeling like I had to do anything.
Yeah.
Now that sounds easy to talk about, right? But I've been a caregiver. I've been a professional healer all my life, all my adult life, starting 10 years old, right? A lot of folks. It's a lot of folks. And I had to unlearn all that I'm going to take care of you thing. And know that they just being with them sometimes isn't enough. So I offer that to all the projectors. Try it out. You are beautiful beings and so potent. Oh my God, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to catch up in the chat here a little bit. So Mike's got a lot to say here.
Nice.
Least amount of effort, greatest amount of results. Yeah, getting recognized. LOL. And I forget what we were talking about, but Ellen says, such a major pitfall. And Mike says, if I start pushing something, I know it's time to take a nap.
I can get an amen to that.
and he says, focus on the basics, focus on the basics moment by moment. And he says both his head and root are open. I'm just going to skip through to Mike's, but there's some other people here who've contributed some things too. And he says, my constant mantra is relax and accepting that you are good enough. Yes. And I think that it's, if it's one thing that projectors can teach by example is presence. Presence. Like you said, Doc, just showing up and being. And I want to welcome Mari. Mari, it's about time for me to get in to see you again. It's so good to see you. If I recall, you are a generator energy type, but I think that what you have to say here is really important as well in terms of energy management. You say that you agree with Helen. I put myself in my own bubble. That's a great visualization tool. I've been doing that a lot too, just covering my aura with light. And my 21-year-old and 18-year-old daughter can really suck my energy in their confusion. And I have to practice loving detachment. I love that. Loving detachment is something really that I love that term, loving detachment. Something that we can really kind of sink our energy into, especially as projectors, and we're in there with the aura, with our auras and stuff. And can we sit back and wait without attachment? Cool. And then Ellen says, my husband keeps doing more and more with a passive aggressive energy, and it's really hard to keep doing it my way. Feel constant pressure when he is around, and I think he is triggered by my not doing housework. He feels I should do it. It's hard work to keep feeling okay about myself. Wow. Yeah.
I can relate to that.
I can relate to that.
I'll speak to that just quickly, because I do, one thing that I've noticed that's helped me in that situation is to stay reflective and not engage in any like even a conversation with like whatever words are getting exchanged. I just kind of fall behind those words and reflect back the energy that's coming from the person that I'm feeling, that's putting that pressure on me. Like, I feel like you're frustrated right now about the way the housework is going. Like, I can see your frustration, and like just name that energy instead of engaging in the back and forth. Because what I notice is then they feel, first of all, they feel validated in whatever energy they're in. But second of all, they may not realize how they're being. And then all you did was just sort of hold the mirror up like, hey, it seems like you're having a hard time, but not taking it on as yours to fix necessarily.
Yeah.
Would you share that little brief moment with your daughter in the car where you pulled over and you went, hey, let me tell you what it's like over here?
Yeah.
Real quick. That was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment.
Yeah. So she's 14 and she's feisty. And it had just been
where you got that.
She'd had a couple of days of just like everything that was coming out of her mouth towards me was like rude and like really mostly disrespectful. And it was just going on and on and on. And I just like I suddenly just had this like, all right, that is like my boundary came up. I'm like, that's enough. And I just pulled the car over and I'm like, I'm just going to reflect exactly back to you everything that you've said to me in the last 2 hours in the way that you said it. And I just purely did that. And then you said this, and then you did that. And then and she just started crying. She started crying. And she's like, I wasn't trying to be mean. I had no intention of being mean at all. And she literally felt bad about how she had been talking to me and behaving to me, but she had no idea. Like it was completely unconscious. And I didn't have to do anything else. My job was done. I reflected it back. She cried. She was like, I do respect you. I do love you. I didn't mean anything. And I'm like, okay, well, you need to become aware of how you're showing up.
Yeah.
Good
That
job,
goes into, very good job.
Very
and that
good.
goes into something that Mari is saying here about just call them out on it. And I've been doing that as well. Just whenever I'm with someone, friends or my husband or whoever, and it's just not feeling. There's a lot of resistance. There are all kinds of different instances. I can put it all under resistance. I've learned to just stop and breathe, feel into it, and just describe it or call it by name.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of brings it up and out to kind of see what the intention is. So yeah. When I get friction, I just graystone them, just be solidly silent. That's what Mike says. And Ellen says, wow. Jenny says, oh, I think she's tagging some people. Hi, Jenny. Welcome. So actually we're at 37 minutes here. So I'm wondering if we want to. We're trying to be good about our boundaries and our time, so that the energy is flowing but not draining any of us, including those of you who are watching. So, one thing that came up for us before we got on the call here is. This realization or this understanding that we are in this place where we're coming into the end of the year. It's often very stressful. Projectors a lot of times can get caught up in that energy of othering, as we talked about earlier. And we were talking about having a bit of how did I put it? Let me make sure I say it. A projector energy management deep dive for beginners and people and projectors who need to have a refresher. Now, when we get off of this call, we're actually going to hash out a few of the details, and I'll make sure that there is a link with the details with this video in the description. But if you're interested in that and you're a projector, if you got projectors in your family and you want to tell them about it, we have a list ongoing. Some of you may already be on it for these projector conversations, and the link is in the description with this video. If you sign up for the Projector Conversations list, you will get information and an invitation with all the details in it. But we thought that time between Thanksgiving and Christmas is an optimal time where we could have a couple of spacious conversations, spacious and potent conversations, maybe on Zoom or something where we can really interact and hash out some solutions and some groundwork for really being able to manage our precious energy in a more effective way, so that we shine more brightly. That's my code word, my code term this year, so that we can shine more brightly and be that beacon for other people, the right other people. So. So be sure to look down in the description if you're not already on the Projector Conversations list, and we'll also and get on that list if you're interested in knowing more about that. And if and I'll also put a link here when we figure it all out. But yeah, that was our inspiration for today. Does anyone have anything? Do you guys, Christy, Doc, you want to say something else about projector energy management at this time, or?
Yeah, I wanted to just put out there, if you don't come into the deep dive, I want to leave you with another idea for being in groups in case we don't get to connect up with each other. Our aura is supposed to work one-on-one. It doesn't work well bouncing around playing social ping pong. It really doesn't. And so a wonderful thing to do is remember that. And then when you go into the groups, see how much you can go on one-on-one. And I think you'll find it less exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a great beginning of an awareness exercise, Doc. Thank you so much for sharing that, because if any of you are going into a group in the next week or so, or whatever, if you've just come out of a group and you're wondering why you're exhausted, really enter into that experience either in the past or into the future with that awareness of seeing if you can catch yourself when you may be ping-ponging around, and or maybe catch yourself when you're zeroed in one-on-one with someone, and feel the difference of that, really feel that in your body. And I think that will help to get the cells retuned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was reminding me of, I guess it was about 3 years ago when I was pretty deep into my own deconditioning, but it was Christmas night, Christmas Day night, and I wrote myself a letter and put it in my calendar for November 1st of the following year. And it was like, this is how you feel right now. This is what you don't want. This is how you never want to feel again. This is what you don't want to do at Christmas time. This is what you don't want to do. And I just like put it on myself so that I would like not do that to myself again. And I did. And then I was like, in my calendar, November 1st, that letter fell out. And I was like, oh, let me go ahead and
all of the pre-holiday notes to self.
Right. And so then, but it really helped me, because then I was like, okay, like now I'm a month ahead, I'm a few weeks before Thanksgiving. I can start thinking about like, what do I want to choose? How do I, if I don't have to show up for everything, how do I want to show up? And I could boundary my energy better. And it definitely was better.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. And I just want to end with something that Ellen is saying in the chat. She says, doing stuff that puts you in good vibes. And that's so important to remember, that and that's something that I really love to do, is like to remind myself a lot of times that if there are people around me who are in resistance or who are experiencing stress in some kind of a way and trying to make me part of that, that I can be bigger than that in a certain way. I can elevate my own vibrations high enough so that stuff is, so that I can get, so I can see where I am in it. And that stuff, I don't get caught up in those lower energy things. Yeah. Yeah. So new things to try, Mike says. Thank you. He says, thank you. And thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for coming on. And we've got some people in the background watching, I can tell, with the little eye up there. So thank you all for being here and observing, because this is all part of our process with these conversations. So I think we're coming right up on the 45th minute here. So I want to thank everybody for coming, and Christy and Doc, thank you for being willing to engage in these conversations. And I so appreciate the connections connections that we have among ourselves, and the connections that we are making with all of you who are participating. So everyone have a wonderful evening, and stay tuned. There's more to come. Bye.